Continuing on, my next project is a 1967 F100. Previous owner had a flatbed on the back of this truck, so he had swapped in or at least what he said was a Chevy Dana 60 in the back with overload springs, and beefed up the suspension and then ran the flatbed with a big welder and toolkit and ladder rack and all that kind of stuff on it. My plan is to swap the Ford 9 back in. I have an extra one. I'm going to swap the Ford 9 back into it, and then clean up everything, rebuild everything as much as possible on the chassis. Probably drop a 460 or a 360 with a C6 automatic in it. Possibly lower it, and then also attempt my first frame chop. So done it on a 2002 F-150, but a completely different frame, different animal. After doing a lot of research and watching a lot of videos of people who've done it, kind of picking and choosing from what everybody's done, the best processes I feel like, and then this is what I came up with. Basically no straight lines, everything's curved. So based on the research I've seen and done with this, still wanting to use this as a truck and be able to support a lot of weight, I'll go ahead and chop it, pull it back together, weld it, and then these non-straight lines will help with frame cracking, frame stress. Put some plates on the inside like most everybody does. But so gotta copy this over to the other side, put some supports on it, and then start cutting. But anyways, so this is the next project. I have the cab almost completely body worked, all the rust repair done. It's in epoxy primer and storage. The doors have been started, still have a lot of work to do on them. So should be fun, should be a good project, and hopefully you guys like following along. So this is how I laid out the other side. Basically broke it into sections of 8, 8, and 8, so total 24 inches. 16 inches need to come out. If you look at the bed mount right here, 1/2 inch gap on that side right there in front of the bolt hole, and then matches that right there, 1/2 inch as well. Start off that point, work my way back, break it into 8-inch sections. Frame is 6 inches high, so break in half, 3 and 3, and then I'll start to make my Z-curve sections there, and I'll show you guys that in a minute. Using the Teflon tape case as a guide to keep the corners consistent, went ahead and marked each one. And then each of these 8-inch sections will get cut out right here, right here, right here, right here. So that's obviously 16 inches. And that Z shape gives me a nice big 8-inch overlap coming up and meeting up here, filling in this space, welding that in. At least that's the plan anyways. All right, so colored in the Z section that it's going to be cut out and removed. You can see this is the 16-inch section here, 16-inch section up here, 8-inch, 8-inch. Bring them together, weld it up. All right, so welded a couple scrap pipes to each side of the cut that I'm going to make on both sides. You can see them over there as well. Going to go ahead and start cutting. These legs should allow everything to stay somewhat steady as I cut through and not bind the blades, not pinch anything, stuff like that. And then once it's apart, the legs will keep it supported, and then I can just roll it forward, slide it forward, match up my lines, make some more measurements, clamp it together, and start tacking. So after a lot of cutting and grinding, I have that chunk out of the frame, both sides. Frame is back together. At least the gap is closed. You can barely see it, but there is that little line going all the way around. So that closed up pretty good. It's a little bit gapped down at the bottom, but I still need to taper the edges of the frame to weld them back together. So inside of it, a little bit gapped down there, but the rest of it's really nice and tight. And on this side, same thing, kind of hard to see with all the clamps in the way, but it's nice and tight. You can see the nice little gap all the way around, but it closed up pretty good. A lot of grinding and smoothing to get it to fit perfect, but it's pretty good. And then these holes right here ended up being right about where the bed bolts are, the front bed bolts. So I'll end up probably making those larger for the new front bed bolts. But that's all I'm gonna do for the night. Come back out in the morning, taper those edges, and then probably start tacking her together. I pulled measurements off of these holes back here. They are 27 inches from the tail end of the frame to that part of this side of the hole, both sides exactly. So cross-reference from that hole past the cut to the rivets over there, and then these rivets right here, and everything lines up exactly perfect across, crisscrossing, and then also pulling just straight measurements from those holes forward. Nice and lined up. So do a couple of more eyeball tests and put a laser on it tomorrow down the frame, see if there's any type of deviance, but so far so good. Customer's truck freshly back from paint, getting the windshield and back window put in today. I welded in both floors, did some body work on it, got it ready for paint. Now it's back. Windows going in, and put the dash in, put the windows, I'll put the door windows back in it, rebuild the doors, new felt, new rubber, weather stripping, all that good stuff. So should be fun. But while they're working on that, it's back to the frame chop, shorten up. So got the frame all prepped and ready to put it back together and weld it up. Both sides are tapered and good to go. Just need to pull it together. Starts putting some welds to it. So the Z chop is done. Frame is welded back together, inside and outside, both sides. Kind of hard to see on camera because of all the reflective metal, but you can see the welded on the inside, welded on the outside. Need to make my plates for inside for both sides and weld those in still, but she is back to being a complete frame again. So that stage of it's done, for the most part. Like I said, got to make those plates for the inside, and then start the whole fun process of cleaning up this dirty mess and seeing what needs to be replaced, what needs to be fixed. Eventually unbolt the rear end out of here and go grab that Ford 9-inch rear end and put that in. Hopefully won't run into too many issues with that since I have all the brackets and bolts and U-bolts and everything off the other chassis that came with. So anyways, that was fun. Oh, and the glass was put into the truck out here. Guys, knocked that out real quick. It's gonna look real sharp, black and orange. So you kind of get an idea with the black rubber around it. Sorry, it got dark while I was working. But yeah, this should be a pretty sharp highway when it's done. I think this one's getting the flatbed if I remember what the owner said. But then some black pinstripes down the side of it as well. But anyways, shop was kind of cleaned up, frame was back together. I'm gonna call it a night.